Invincible on Prime hashtag to the tweet that we're sent to the live tweet.
Did you?
So, yeah, that's preparation right there.
I like that. That's smart. Yeah, we got to retweet this stuff out right now.
I do like going early though, because like I said, I got the pre-workout going.
Nice. Oh, that's what
the gym.
Is. Okay.
I'm telling you, this last week I've had so much contact with strength coaches that like I'm just hoping that by osmosis I'm just going to become strong.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah, just like absorb all this information and stuff. I took Bill Ferran from the Miami Heat. Fantastic interview. Love that guy.
Really?
Yeah, good stuff. Real good stuff.
I gotta go catch that one. That's I know you had
that's coming up Saturday.
You had him. Okay, good. I missed.
Oh no, Thursday. I'm sorry.
So you've had him and you had the Lakers strength coach.
Yeah. So both NBA Finals won. And I was telling you, like, I got to reach out. I got to DM this guy, but the strength coach for the Red Sox. That's really cool, right?
Yeah, that's right. Look at you.
So I'll hand that right over to you. You can take that. If something ever materializes with that, I'll hand that right off to you.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope he can keep me up to date on all the injuries, so that way if we have to put anything down,
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's good. Get a little inside look.
I had the freaking I had 3 bets that I wrote up for the site today, and what was the Rockies Giants one got canceled right before the game got canceled right before the show. So probably saved me. I've taken the under in that one, and it's at core, so it probably got saved.
Oh, geez, we got a big audience here. What do you say? Should we keep them waiting anymore? Or?
No, I say let's get rolling on the Invincible talk.
Okay, yeah, I guess so. I'm shocked. Thank you for joining us all, everybody. Just a little back room, a little inside baseball talk.
Literally.
Okay. Yes, from the teeth to the tongue. 3, 2, 1, and welcome back to another episode of Change My Mind. Part of the hashtag Dorkshire Gooniverse, along with Geeks Worldwide Radio, and of course, Midnight.fm. I am Wesley Sykes, and through the other side of the ether is the Black Samson to my Rexplode, Mr. Nick Fryer.
That is one of my favorite ones that you've done so far, Wes, because simple and Black Samson is, a well-spoken, smart, calculated member of the Guardians of the Globe. And Rexplode, I mean, you love Jason Mantzoukas, and we'll just leave it at that.
I do, but I hate this character throughout it all. So I'm really torn by it. And it's no surprise that this is one of your favorite ones because you wrote it, sir.
Oh, no, I did not do that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Some crazy shenanigans being pulled here. This week, if you haven't already guessed, we'll be discussing the animated superhero series Invincible, now streaming on Amazon Prime and based off the Robert Kirkman comic book series that Nick was just showing on screen. If, of course, you're watching the live stream, which is typically 7 o'clock Eastern, Monday night, 7 o'clock-ish. But we're, fast-tracking this because why not?
Yeah, because work allowed me to today. That's really what it came down to.
Exactly.
This is normally when Wes and I would like to do it, but it kind of worked out. And I could not be more excited to be talking about this early, Wes, because I love this series. I love the comic book series, and I love the show. So I'm ready to roll. Hit me with the intro question.
Okay, I think this is kind of related here. If the events or actions of your life were to lead to your superpowers, what do you think they would be?
Look, part of the reason that I've always liked Gambit is because his superpowers are something that that would have been applicable to kind of my life, right? Because I was a baseball player for a long time, I was a pitcher, and of course,
you're a card shark.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But he can kinetically charge anything, any inanimate object, and I know he turns into explosive devices, so maybe that wouldn't necessarily work, but you get my point. He's able to, throw with gas and doesn't necessarily take much out of him. As much as I always wanted Wolverine powers or Spider-Man powers, Gambit was always number 3, and that was one that always made most sense to me.
Okay, so you think with the baseball aspect to it. Now, would your powers require you to do like a Hideo Nomo full windup before releasing them, or would you go from the stretch? I mean, what were you?
I hope not. I mean, I was a stretch guy by the end of it. I mean, when I started, I think if you start, you got to throw out of the windup, and if you come out of the bullpen, you have to throw out of the stretch. If you throw out of the windup, out of the bullpen, I just feel like you look like a narc essentially. So, but it's vice versa if you go out of the if you're starting and you don't throw out of the windup. So it would depend on the role, but I always wanted to be a closer, but I always felt like for some reason I was more of a setup man. I don't know. That was probably just more where I was mentally at the end of my career. But
sure.
What's funny too is I think Rexplode's powers are kind of similar to Gambit's, which makes you wonder, did Kirkman, was that a commentary on that character?
I thought it was more towards like the Human Torch, but with like kind of rocks, right? Doesn't he say like rock on or stuff like that? And he's like kind of like a hothead.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a bit of a hothead, but Gambit was, some people don't like Gambit because not because of the whole Channing Tatum fiasco nonsense that I know has become a running joke in the DSG. Like, people look at him and think, in the 90s version of him, when he got introduced, he was kind of a scumbag.
Bit of misogynist, but some might say a Southern gentleman. I don't know.
Look, Rogue gets him straight for at least a good point, but a good point in time. But anyways, what would you? So same question to you: if the events or actions of your life,
this wasn't going to come around to me. So if the events or actions of my life, so what would best sum up the events? Like probably like tripping upwards. That's probably it. Like tripping upwards somehow that would like lead into flight.
Okay. That power doesn't necessarily work, but okay.
I don't know. Like maybe something like what's Zazie Beetz' character? Another name from the series here. Domino, right? It kind of has luck. Like she's like Lady Luck there. Like I guess maybe something like that, but. Like it's bad events that maybe eventually turn out good. You just don't necessarily see them.
Sounds like this is okay. So are we talking about real life now, or are we talking about superpowers?
Yeah. What real, like if the events of your real life to this point.
I know. I'm just saying. I was joking because I felt like a little on the nose. Like you're actually talking about your real life.
I was trying to be honest here. I thought this is kind of a free session, if you will.
Oh yes, of course. Sorry, I forgot my notepad. Where is that thing?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Let's get to trending now, though. While you search for that, because we're never at a loss. We always know where trending now is. That's at the top of the show. And of course, Marvel announced movie dates and titles all the way into 2023. Nick.
Yeah, they did. And let's list them off for everybody too, in case you didn't see the trailer. We did tweet it out from the Change My Mind Twitter account, Change My Mind Pod. Starting off, Wes, with of course Black Widow, which is coming out this July 9th.
Yes, and of course I think this whole little video was like dubbed Marvel Goes Back to the Movies or Marvel at the Movies or something. It was like a 3.5-minute video. Very interesting stuff. But after Black Widow, of course, we have Shang-Chi or Shang-Chi. I don't know how you pronounce that. I think Kevin Feige adds a little flavor to it. And The Legend of the Ten Rings. So that's September 3rd, 2021.
And then that'll be followed by The Eternals, or just Eternals, excuse me, on November 5th of this year as well.
Then we have the much anticipated threequel, Spider-Man No Way Home, December 17th, 2021.
Then we get Doctor Strange to start off the Marvel year in 2022. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness on March 25th.
And then on May 6th of 2022, we get Thor 4, Love and Thunder. And Nick, we got some interesting titles following up here.
Yes, we do. We got Black Panther, Wakanda Forever on July 8th of 2022. Very excited for that one. I mean, look, we're excited for all these, but that was the one that, it was the first one of these where it's like my jaw dropped. Like,
and a bit of news, right? You get a little bit of a teaser for the Eternals, right? And a little bit of new stuff from Black Widow and Shang-Chi. But this was I think the big news with the Wakanda Forever Black Panther 2 kind of title release, as well as Captain Marvel 2, which was Marvels, which is going to be released on November 11th, 2022. Interesting date, military-wise. I don't know, 11/11. 222, very interesting. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but the numbers are interesting.
and then we got to round everything out in terms of dates and official titles. We have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantum Mania on February 17th of 2023. We also, Wes, looks like we got at least a peek at something to do with the Fantastic Four at the tail end of that too.
And maybe that's the bookend of phase 4 with the phase 4. Because again, they're kind of shrouding that in mystery. So what that's going to be, I'm not really sure. And we also had an interesting quote from last week from Malcolm Spellman, I believe, who was the writer for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And of course is going to, lead the project of Captain America 4 with Sam Wilson there. He had said something interesting. I think Murphy's Multiverse picked this up, and they said that he was surprised at what wasn't released for the next slate of Marvel movies and how they chose to release it. So I think there's going to be a lot of things in store. If you search YouTube, the YouTube sleuths out there and Reddit, I think there's some illusions out there. I don't want to, get anything too out there, there in case I am wrong. But
Mhm.
if you're into searching, I think that's interesting. But what jumps out to you the most about the excitement here?
Well, I think the tease for the Fantastic Four for me is the biggest one. As much as I'm not a Fantastic Four
I
guy,
know, I'm surprised.
I don't care for Reed Richards. I am curious to see what the MCU does with this character, because they took other characters that weren't necessarily as popular or as fun, and they made them into awesome characters. I mean, even look at like Vision, who's a character that
Right.
whatever. I care about him at the end of it all. Now, Captain America made infinitely cooler. It's a character who I've seen up to
Sam
cast
Wilson for that matter. Yeah.
with Sam Wilson too. But so I was talking about Steve Rogers. Sam
Right.
Wilson. I mean, that outfit is friggin' Falcons. Whatever. His outfits are awesome. But with Steve Rogers, character who sure people like him, but he hasn't always been an easy sell when it comes to the actual comic books, because it's just too clean, polished, and his just stories don't resonate well with our generation. I feel like it's been that way for a long time. We've talked about it on the show before.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they went and turned him into one of my favorite characters in the MCU. I was on his side versus Iron Man, and Iron Man, another character who wasn't popular. I want to see what they do with the Fantastic Four. I like the Thing, kind of. I like the Human Torch, but I'm very excited with those. And then the Black Panther one, of the titles that we got, to me, seeing the title for it is like, holy shit. Like they got a plan in place for what's going to happen post-Bolton.
Right.
RIP.
And the title and the date is interesting too, right? Because it gives you the firm date. For a while that looked like that project was going to be put on the shelf until they figured out how they were going to handle Chadwick Boseman's death and how they were going to, kind of work around that, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, right? It looks like they have a plan hammered down of how to approach this. So I think that's kind of interesting and good for the future. And also Marvel's, just real quick on that, I think that's going to be interesting because that was just an untitled Captain Marvel 2 project, right? So now it looks like you have the S from Miss Marvel, you have the sword shield emblem of Monica Rambeau in the title there, of course, Captain Marvel. Is there Blue Marvel involved? Is there any other Marvels that we can, throw in there that can also be in this sequel? I'm not sure, but I'm eager to see, Marvel's next crack at Captain Marvel and see if there's a little bit of a redemption story behind, her storyline, her character arc to this point.
So for me, with 2021, I would say the movie I'm most excited for. I mean, look, just Black Widow's kicking things off for this year for the movies, but I think I'm most excited for Shang-Chi just because it's different. That and Eternals are both different, and I'm excited for what Black Knight's going to do in Eternals. But Shang-Chi looks awesome, and then I think for next year, I'm probably next year is friggin' loaded, man. I would say the Marvels one is the one I'm probably least excited about, but doesn't mean I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, but they're going up against Doctor Strange 2, Thor 4, and Black Panther 2. I mean, that's a murderer's row.
Yeah, Jesus. So it's going to be we got a lot of good shit coming.
It would probably be Spider-Man for me for 2021. I'll go Doctor Strange 2 just because of how hyped up in those movies kind of playing within the course of each other, which is also weird because I thought Doctor Strange was supposed to lead into Spider-Man, but I guess it's the other way around. Maybe I had that confused. But anyway, speaking of Doctor Strange and sticking in the MCU, some news that also broke kind of right after all this, Marvel movie release date news came out was Kevin Feige in an interview with Rolling Stone said that Doctor Strange was going to appear in the finale of WandaVision, but was ultimately, as we all know, removed. The commercials, which I'm not sure if they were ever fully really explained. Maybe that just got memory hold for me. But they were initially intended as messages to Wanda from Strange. Excuse me. So do you care, or is this too little too late? Or, is this... What do you think about this?
I don't hate them. From a creative perspective, when it comes to that stuff, I would think like you go through all these different ideas and spitball a bunch of different stuff. And I don't mind you telling us after the fact. I think we're enough removed from WandaVision where it's fine. If they told us right out the gates that Strange was going to be involved with this, I would have probably been annoyed by that.
I thought he was. I mean, my other podcasting partner, Goo, had said, in a lot of the promotional footage or interviews or something like that, Strange had popped up almost as if like a cameo within the interview. I talk about on the nose.
Right. No, but what I meant was if they told us right after WandaVision ended.
I got you. Sorry.
Yeah, not before. No, I worded that poorly. But I thought the same thing as you guys beforehand. If they told us right after this, that would have been annoying. But now it's been a little while afterwards. Then we got, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it's we're on to Loki. So it's fine that you're telling us that now that you made some, changes creatively. But if you told us right afterwards, I'm like, well, then then you should have just done it and not told us that.
I still kind of feel that way, even with that time in between. Because, like, again, why was it removed? If you tease Doctor Strange before this, if this is supposed to be tied in, why not have him show up? Was that just like, again, to have like a red herring and kind of pull the rug out from the fans who were kind of, the train had left the station as far as speculation was concerned?
I don't know.
I'm interested.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, as a little tease for what we're talking about later on, I gave this Invincible the same grade as WandaVision. So if you guys remember that from episode from Change My Mind 108, if you remember that, then you know
high regards.
Yes, definitely high regards. Well, I think people know that I liked it. We'll see. I don't know about you. Let's see. As far as the other big two property, DC Fandom is announced it's going to be returning October 16th. I'm just curious, Wes, do you have anything that you need to hear at Fandom?
I just want to make sure I get this straight. So they are announcing, an event where they're going to be announcing projects.
That is what this is? Correct, sir. Yes.
Okay. I was filled with such hot air at that moment that I was burping it out. I was just having a physical reaction to it.
Ironic.
No, not really. I don't know what else. I want a new Batman trailer. That would be cool.
That would be huge.
But what else is on the slate? I don't know. The Flash. I don't know what else is like on the movies. I don't care about the DC CW universe and or like the Lois show that's on HBO Max or Hulu now or something. The other Superman and Lois show.
Superman and Lois, I believe is what it's called. I'm not watching. I believe Mac is actually watching that one and he liked it. But there's 22 episodes, and look, I think when you've said in the past that 10 episodes is too much for a show, I don't necessarily agree, but 22 episodes for 45-minute shows, that is a lot. I gotta love that character. And I like Green Arrow, and I couldn't even get – now, that show had its ups and downs, but I couldn't even do that one. So, and these are made for TV. It's got a different tempo to it versus like that's the thing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier that I feel like gets lost when we talk about it being cinematic. Same thing with WandaVision. Right. It doesn't have that like arc where it's like, building up to this one thing and then a slight lull, and then it's like, oh shit, wait, no, and then it's like,
yeah. You can play with it more as a movie over the course of 6 episodes than having like a single episode wrap up.
The storytelling isn't so formulaic, and it's I get it's annoying for me sometimes. But anyways, for me, I'd like to get a little more comic book news than we got last year. We got oh my god, what's the name of the imprint that they announced back? But I would just like them to give us a little bit more on that, and then it would be really nice if we could just get some semblance of what the fuck they're trying to do. Like what is it now? Like, what's the direction? Are we just going to go and start telling individual stories separately? That's fine. Just tell us so we know. I don't need this guessing game shit anymore. That's all.
Yeah, I'm with you. I saw this tweet and I think it's pretty funny, right? Marvel is like ready to unveil phases 4A, B, C, 5, 6. It's like all these different subsets in phase 4 and then setting up 5 and 6 successfully. And the DCEU can't even finish its first overall story arc successfully.
Yeah, it's
in that same time, right? It's like 13 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's so I don't understand it. I don't know. I guess I'm frustrated with it, but I'm trying to find that what that imprint was that I can't remember for the life of me what it was that came back. But anyways, so actually on the note with DC too, also we found out that Sweet Tooth, which is a Vertigo comic, which is another DC imprint, we found out that Sweet Tooth is going to be. We heard about the series. It's going to be on Netflix. It's produced by Robert Downey Jr. and I believe Susan Downey, which I'm assuming is his wife, if not some form of relative, whatever. It's got Will Forte in it. I'm going to watch it. Are you going to watch it?
It seemed interesting. I saw the retweet that you did from the show account there with the trailer. So it definitely had my attention. Little kid who looks like a deer. So okay.
Yes, it's
kind of fantastical, but superhero. Okay.
Just a little bit fantastical. But yeah, I'm in on this. I don't know how much I'm going to like it. I've never read Sweet Tooth, but I mean, I guess we'll see what happens.
Hey, maybe we'll be better off for that.
Yeah,
with a fresh, clean palette, if you will.
I still might read it beforehand, though. I really like to do that, but I'm glad I did it with Invincible, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I do want to remind everybody that we, Mac and Goo, Dork, PCP, TLDR, we all have merch over on TeePublic. If you guys want to get some show merch and rock that out, make sure you guys let us know if you buy anything. We'll retweet you and everything like that. But that's all over on TeePublic, and we'll let you know when they have deals. We try to let you guys know at least. As for the comic book minute this week, I am reviewing Nocterra, which is Scott Snyder's Image comic series, and it's been a great one. The third issue is awesome. That review will be up the day that we drop the audio version of Change My Mind. And then for Dark Horse, Jenny Zero, issue 1, that we interviewed the writers for that a little while back. You guys can go and listen to that on TLDR. Joe is going to be reviewing that as well. And this week, Joe is actually going to be talking about a Image Comics book called Crossover, which you and another one that I think you'd like to hear the story, Wes.
Okay. They
turned it into a show. I don't know how they would do it though, because apparently they pulled in characters from all across the big two, like Marvel, DC, and I'm sure other Image stories too. And then they brought in creators, like actual comic book creators. Like I think Chip Zdarsky, another character, Donnie Cates is the one who wrote it. They're like included within the story. So I don't know. That. Yeah, so I think it's a little different. I've been dying to read it, so I can't though till Joe talks about it on the show. And I told him, the first arc's done. You got to tell me about this shit now.
So, I love it. That's like almost like journalism rule 17. Always insert yourself into the story.
Yes, exactly. And I got a question for you. Is my internet shitty right now? Because Joe's giving me crap in the chat.
You're crapping out a little bit, and I was going to step in and just allow you to do it, but I've realized that I know nothing about what you're talking about in this comic book minute, so I'm usually all ears.
Oh, okay. Well, if I chopped out on everybody, Nocterra and Jenny Zero, the two that I'm most excited about for this week. Anyways, moving on to I think it's safe time now, Wes, to move on to our main topic. So. Okay, so we are talking about Invincible. We are doing our exit survey like we have done with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision. And we didn't mention it in the news section of the show, but we found out Invincible is going to be getting 2 more seasons. Wes, could you give us the synopsis?
I sure can. It's based on the groundbreaking series by Robert Kirkman. Invincible is an adult animated superhero series that revolves around 17-year-old Mark. I'll just read anything that's written down. Marl Grayson, who's just like every other guy his age, except his father, who is the most powerful superhero on this planet, Omni-Man. But as Mark develops powers on his own, he discovers his father's legacy may not be as heroic as it seems.
I am so sorry for cutting you off too.
17-year-old Marl.
Merle.
We're it like that. Question it all. That's great.
Merle Dixon. We're actually getting the Robert Kirkman properties crossed between each other. Speaking of which, we actually had some characters or some actors from The Walking Dead featured in this. Aside from Stephen Yeun, who's the main character, Mark Grayson, and all this. I think Maggie did a voice. Morgan has a voice in there, and Sasha, I believe, she's in the mix as well. But
if I read correctly, I'm not a Walking Dead fan, but in watching some post breakdown videos, I think it was all the original members of the Guardians of the Globe.
That might be the case. I think that Morgan was Darkwing, and then I think what's the Wonder Woman character? I think that was Maggie. Yeah, War Woman was Maggie. I don't know after that. Oh, you know what? I think maybe yes. You might be right. I didn't see the other ones. Good call.
Hey, thank you. I could do some things. I may not be that smart, but I could do things.
As for the cast and crew, this was directed by Jeff Allen and Robert Valley. The head writers were Robert Kirkman, Ryan Ottley, and Corey Walker, who were the creators and of the series. I believe it was Ottley and Kirkman who created it, and then Walker came in as the artist in place of Ottley as the series went along. Starring Stephen Yeun, Sandra Oh, J.K. Simmons, Zazie Beetz. Is it Gillian Jacobs?
I believe you had that right. I was wondering if you're going to trip over that. You did a great job.
From, Community. Yeah. And then we have Zachary Quinto, Jason Mantzoukas, Walt Goggins. Let's see. Oh, and then a couple other people that I did want to know. Mahershala Ali plays the character Titan, and then Seth Rogen is Alan the Alien.
I didn't. What's his name? The Flash play a role. Ezra Miller, right? He plays a role in this too. Speaking role. Yeah, there's like a ton of small parts. I think Justin Roiland, who does the Rick and Morty voices. He also has a speaking role in this, like small parts in this. Like the voice acting is all over the place, and I think that's a strong point and also a bit distracting too.
Oh well, I wonder how the critics felt about that. Can you tell me?
Yes, so the critical reception, 8.9 out of 10 on IMDb, a 96-91 split on Rotten Tomatoes with a critics' consensus of, quote, with bold animation, bloody action, and an all-star cast, thank you, Nick, led by the charming Stephen Young, Invincible smartly adapts its source material without sacrificing its nuanced perspective on the price of superpowers.
Yeah, I can get some shit right. Sometimes I guess sometimes. But anyways, as for our grades and tweet length reviews, I will kick us off this time around.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrestled with this a lot because I read the series. Now, I have not read the entire series, but I read enough coming into it because I wanted to have an idea. We talked about it on TLDR before the series began. Spoiler free, so there's you guys can go back and listen, but there's only so much. I had an idea where they were going with the series beforehand, but they made a lot of changes, and we will talk about that more. So I kind of had to wrestle with my grading, and I know you see a 93, and it's like, oh well, wait a minute, like how much?
Sounds like a submission to me.
It was clear to me right out the gates. It was clear as day in 85. No quite like at minimum. I didn't like that was my base, and I knew it wasn't above a 95. So I had to figure out where in between there I wanted to go. And I know how I felt about WandaVision. I knew how I felt about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I knew I had to give this a better grade than Falcon and the Winter Soldier for sure, as much as I like that show. So as for my actual review, because now that I've spoken a ton, the series respects the comic book series. The show respects the comic book series well, but definitely made some noticeable changes. All around, it did an exceptional job of capturing the essence of Invincible. Most importantly, Robert Kirkman learned from the mistakes he made with The Walking Dead.
Oh, look at that. Nice little other commentary on I like that. That's a good tie in there. So Nick, so I have to put almost like a warning on this. I probably didn't view this in the way that it should be. I watched the first 3 or 4 episodes all in one shot, kind of sparingly. So it didn't really like hold my attention the whole time. And then took some time off until we decided last week that we were going to do this episode. So then I binged it between this weekend, which I had a ton of stuff going on. So I'm not sure if I was in the right frame to really absorb this. So it's a tentative grade of 75. That's kind of the baseline for me. I think it was fine. I think there were some cool aspects. I probably should have watched this as it came out, as it was intended to. So that's on me. But it's full of blood and gore. It has a lot of lulls that it doesn't really hold me. So since it's neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth.
Okay. Well, that was I don't. Okay. All right. I don't. 75, Wes.
Hey, listen, that's probably more of a reflection on me. I don't feel too strongly one way or the other. So this is me trying to ride the fence this episode.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, all right. Let's go on to the actual exit survey questions. Yeah. Less certainly. All right. So let's start with describe the series in 3 words or less. I'll keep it simple. Lots of fun.
Lots of fun. Okay. Unsold on anime.
This is an anime?
It kind of is. I heard this say animation, then animation. I was to use it for 3 words. I was just kind of used it, but like animated cartoons, for lack of a better term, to elaborate on that. But to play within the game, to keep it within the structure, those are the 3 words.
Okay.
I wasn't big onto animated movies and stuff like that until fairly recently. I think we've kind of outlined that on previous episodes on this podcast, and up until like Justice League Dark and the Scorpion movie, right? Mortal Kombat, Scorpion's Revenge, and a lot of the other Batman movies that I started to get into. I like those. This was good, and it had a lot of great aspects of like that blood and the gore and everything, and the ability to tell that story with that suspension of disbelief that comes with animated storytelling as opposed to like live action. I think that's great, but again, the mouth movement and the voiceover seemed jarring at times. And it just seemed, I don't know what it was, but it was off-putting and it was noticeable to me.
There's one character. I think there are 2 characters that people were had issues with. I've heard other guys from the DSG kind of express that, and I watched it with Lauren, and I think there was one character that her and I agreed on that was like a little bit bothersome, but I don't get. But we'll get into that. We have a portion for that in our actual questions. But what did you like about the series? Why don't you kick us off?
Again, I think the blood and gore of this series was great overall. I think the Omni Man and Nolan, however you want to refer to him, his storyline is pretty cool, and just kind of being like Veltram's like Trojan horse almost. I think that was a pretty cool twist, and that's kind of what kept me attached to this story, I think, and what kept me interested, because a lot of the other things didn't really do it for me. But again, that to go back to the blood and gore, that train scene. I mean,
oh my
that's
God.
something unreal at the end there, right? And I think that's everything what you look for out of a series like that, right? This is what you want. That's the highlight of it. And I also think with that same scene, it was dealt with the effects of like a superhero battle on the innocent bystanders, right? Which is not something that you can always tell in a Marvel or DC live action movie. So I think it kind of brings some sort of interesting things. We can go back and forth on this because there's a couple that you have.
Yeah, I have. Well, yeah, I mean, the first one that jumps out to me is that it's actually kind of two technically, where we have Amber, who's Zazie Beetz' character, and then we have Debbie Grayson, Mark's mom, who were characters in the comic that were not strong, prominent characters. They weren't strong females. They weren't prominent. And obviously here we see what Debbie's going through all this. And of course, she's voiced by Sandra Oh, what she's going through and all this, and how she figures things out. All of that, what she did, nothing. None of that happened. She's just she's a housewife in the comic, and she's she gets devastated. We're gonna see how she reacts to Nolan and everything that went down with him and Mark. Went in the next season, but she was not. They were in love and all that, but that was a big change. And then the same with Amber. She was kind of this. Like, oh, hey, like stereotypical or stereotyped ditzy blonde, I guess, how we'll put it, or whatever. And she's a much stronger character here. In some ways, where I got a little frustrated with her at one point when she found out about Mark. When he told her she was invincible, he told her he was invincible. I was like, oh, that's a little bit much, but I see now how it was the industry. But that was to me, that's the first thing that I would say I liked about this series, the change that they made.
Yeah, I think those are some of the bigger points that I had, and again, I'll take your word on the changes from the comic books and stuff like that. But as a lover of bad puns and bad comedy, all the nods and allusions to the other superheroes from the other universes, which I think is something that the other Amazon Prime show, The Boys, kind of did a good job of spoofing.
Yes.
But again, the Grayson family nod, Teen Titans, the Seance dog character, right, in the comic book that Mark is reading early on, the Justice League, obviously Guardians of the Globe, Guardians of the Galaxy, all the hero, all that stuff. So I found that kind of cool, and like again, when I found the story to be a lull, that was also something that kind of kept me into it from kind of playing highlights, right? Find all the differences between those photos. Yeah,
I mean, and you hinted at this before with the fighting and stuff like that, but I love that. But when you talk about The Boys and the similarities, but obviously very different. This is more The Boys is more a commentary on the just the issue that superheroes would present, and this is more about the life of being a superhero and growing up with that in your household and all that stuff. So it's a different but still similar in a sense. What I love about this series as my number 2, and you could even argue it's like a 1B or 1A, whatever. It's that there are so many awesome stories in comic books outside of the big 2, and this is further proof. And we got it with The Walking Dead. Like, I understand the frustrations that have happened with that series, but in general, people liked it for a long time. That got its chance, and we're seeing it more and more. I mean, Sweet Tooth is Vertigo, so it's a little different, but a show like this, and also being animated too, because I like the animated shit. I don't like, you saw, obviously you saw how violent this is, pretty on par with the comics. Maybe a little more violent. I don't think you could, I don't know, you did it with The Boys, but I don't know how the violence would have played here if it was live action. It seems a little bit more graphic.
It's tougher. You're definitely working with more constraints on it. So I think that's, again, a positive and a negative. I see why they do it, because it works. And you can do, again, you have that suspension of disbelief because it's comic books, right? Or it's animation, so it doesn't feel as real. So you're okay with seeing a head get smashed in by two pairs of hands.
Yeah, and before we move on to the things that we didn't like, I can go on and on about all the things that I did like in this.
Yeah,
I like the respect that they had for the comics. They made changes for sure, and I've already highlighted a couple, and there are a few more that I will touch on. But they definitely respected it enough through the first 6 episodes. Then from 7 and 8, it was a little bit weird, and that's where I kind of had my hangups. But we'll get to that in a second. Why don't you tell me though first what you didn't like about the series?
Well, yeah, just to put a bow on what I did like, real quick, I love that Mark found his powers by figuring out that he has a fetish for getting the shit kicked out of him. It just that seems like that kind of what spawned my idea for the intro question. It's like what happens in your life kind of helps you form your powers, right? Isn't that kind of what it's about?
You take out the trash and then you get the shit kicked out of you, and then you realize, oh, I don't just got super strength. I can take a beating.
But he liked it too. He's like, hit me again. It's like it's some BDSM type stuff.
Yes, that's what it is.
I guess I went there. Okay, but things I didn't like about it. Again, it felt long. Whether it really was in actuality or that was just my perception, there felt like the storyline dragged a little bit. But again, I binged it and didn't really watch it how it was intended, so that just might be on me. As I already mentioned, the animation, I don't know if it's low budget with the audio, mouth movements weren't lining up. That was minor issues, but that was kind of weird for me. And I already mentioned the cast is jam-packed, but also a little off-putting because, are you watching Tom Cruise as, so-and-so, or is this just, so-and-so playing the role? You know what I mean?
So were there 2 characters that bothered you with the voiceovers, or was it one?
Yeah, the Omni-Man stuck out like a sore thumb just because how much he looks like J.K. Simmons and J. Jonah Jameson and all that stuff, right?
Yep, exactly. That
was the one. Lucas was another one. Rexplode.
See, now that's a character who in the series, like I didn't give too much of a shit for. I mean, he's clearly an
I hated him. I didn't like him
exactly. That's what, I get how he kind of like wore on people a little bit later on, but I liked Mantzoukas. Simmons was the one that was like a little bit odd. As much as I love J.K. Simmons and think he's an outstanding actor, I don't know if voice acting is. I don't know how often he does it, but I don't know if it's necessarily the thing.
Especially where he's like, what, the State Farm or the Allstate guy or whatever. Like, like his voice so much, even so well. Aside from his movies,
Yeah, I agree. So that one was a little bit tough. As much as I originally liked the casting because like it looks just like him and everything like that.
Oh yeah. But it's like that rough and tumble, like grown man strong voice. It kind of projects that strength and that you would want out of Omni-Man. So I get the casting.
Yeah, it's just that there's something. I do understand it. I liked it at first too. It was just in the end, I would say it was fine. Like because that doesn't necessarily take me out of the movie in general or a show in this case in general. But it was a little bit weird. I might have taken like if I haven't, so I gave it a 93, maybe like a half point off of that. The biggest thing for me was I talked about how I made a lot of changes from the comic and it respected it. You talked about how it dragged you. And I know obviously you don't read the comics, but if you read them, you'd be like, what are we doing? Because they take so many of the in-between moments and they actually address them in the comics as a commentary where we normally see things like, you just go to the next panel and you skip something over. I always thought it was kind of funny how they did that. But that was, I thought, a good change for the show. Something that I was really hung up on was the ending of it all. Because who's the last person to find out about Omni-Man and all the shit that's going on with him? Mark. Well, this was the first person. Am I cutting out again? Because I'm seeing the internet thing pop up.
You're cutting out a little bit. Yeah, but you were saying Mark was the last person to find out about Omni-Man. But in the comic books.
In the comic books, Mark is the first person to find out about Omni-Man outside of the Guardians of the Globe. Because we see, the Immortal, who he flies in on the scene on a different situation than the fight that we saw, and they go after it, and the fight does not last that long. Man cuts him in half again, and then he's like, "Mark, we need to talk." And then he spends the whole issue telling him what actually happened. That didn't. So what was it? I wrote it down. Nolan didn't kill the Guardians of the Globe until the 3rd issue of the 2nd arc. And then we don't get that whole thing with him and Mark till I think it's midway through the 3rd arc. So they jump-started that. And I'm fine with that. I thought that's something else I liked. I thought it was a good decision to get people reeled in. But Mark is the last person to find out about it. And then in the course of all of it, I like how, Omni-Man said that he loves, Mark's mom like a pet, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Fine. I like that. Yeah. That's a little twist. because in the comic, I wrote down the direct quote. Actually, he said, "Your mother means nothing to me."
Right. I remember seeing that on a recap. Yeah.
So that was a good change. But what I don't like is that we never flat out heard, and I'm watching it with Lauren, who didn't read the comics, but she's really into it. She was like, she got how Omni-Man got to this point based on his past and everything. But what was like the little thing that they showed us, but they probably should have told us, and they did in the comics, was that Omni-Man kind of got used to being a human, like used to being on Earth and being comfortable, and went away. And then when Mark got his powers, boom, flip switched, and now he's like, now I have somebody else to do this with. We need to go and actually be Viltrumites. We cannot act like humans. So that was something that I kind of wrestled with and bugged me. Those two components that I would say I didn't like, but still, in the end, just watching the series for what it is, they did a really good job. So I took points off for that, but that was probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, and this was kind of goes into your next question, right? Or do you wish they had explained what was going on with Omni-Man sooner? And it's like, I'm kind of yes and no. Like, again, that's what kept me attached to the series and kept me kind of stringing along. But I also felt just like that I was like just waiting for that, because I didn't care about Mark in high school and like the throuple that he had with Rexplode and Adam Eve and Zazzy beats Amber there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really care for that, and like the home, like the idea of Invincible kind of and Mark being Peter Parker seemed very prevalent. There seemed to be a lot of crossover, or Dick Grayson maybe, with the Grayson family both, there.
Yeah.
But that kind of like coming of age storyline, it just felt very played out.
Okay.
And as much as they're kind of like alluding to the comic books or other comic books, I should say, that felt like a tired out, like overused trope.
Okay, so then I'm glad to hear that, because I personally, look, I was all in on this series from start to finish. I was going to watch it no matter what, because I like the comic and I like, getting some animated superhero stuff for adults, all that. Great. But I was worried for someone like you or other people that are in on this show or giving it a shot. Did they gave it to you at the very beginning, and they're not going to give it to you till the very end. And I was just, but it ended up working out.
I think the twist and the whole idea of Veltrum, am I saying that right?
Viltrum.
Yeah, his home planet there, and like the idea of it there being peacekeepers sent out to kind of be planet protectors, and then they're like sleeper soldiers essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least in this case he was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's very interesting. Something I didn't see coming.
Okay, so you were okay. See, and that's where someone who I knew I saw some of the changes they made, but I know like there are certain things you cannot mess around with. Like they moved some stuff up timeline wise. Like the stuff with Titan happens later. I believe Mark's dad is gone by that point. Like he'd already left, like he did at the end of the series. That already happened by the time he has that whole thing with Titan and what's that lion dude? The Beast, I can't remember what his name is. Battle Beast.
Battle Beast. Oh yeah, he's up there. He's coming up on what age the worst or the best? I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. So I'm glad to hear that didn't necessarily bother you. And you're somebody who I think of the people I've talked to so far that didn't read the comics that watched this. You, I think, based on your grade, liked it the least of anybody. So clearly,
that's me though. I'm not
saying
sure
they made
how
the
much
right
stock's in that.
But I'm saying they made the right decision when it came to not giving us everything on Omni-Man sooner. What would you have done differently?
Yes, I'm gonna deflect to you on this, because I think on the short, it's just on the surface, just maybe shorten it up a little bit.
Okay.
Other than that, I wouldn't know. So where you have the background in the comics, please take the lead here.
Thank you. So I like what they did with Sandra. Oh, I have no issues with that. And I told you a little bit where I would have had Omni-Man explain a little bit more.
Do you think that Sandra, you should be like exclamating her last name?
I will do that from now on.
Sandra.
With Sandra. I like what they did with the character, but I would have liked with. I have feelings on Amber, and I'm going to get that's where I'm going to go in a second. But I would have liked if Omni-Man flat out said, the time I got comfortable here, I just got like relaxed and everything. If you had just flat out told us that, I think that would have helped a lot of people watching things. But moreover, with Amber, her finding out about Mark so quickly, because that happens way later on in the comics. Like that, the whole thing at the college, they visit the college in the comic. Amber's not there in the comic, minor detail. But the stuff with Rick and that dude who creates the robot like zombie monsters or whatever, that happens I believe after Nolan's gone because what's his face? Mark and Will are at college, so that's a whole different thing. But then Amber finds out while they're in college that Mark is a superhero. She thought he was a drug dealer in the comics at one point. Again, not really that smart, kind of ditzy, whatever. The thing more so with her is like Mark tells her so quickly that she's a superhero, and she gets pissed at him still. I get that not being enough for her to forgive him initially. I understand that because after rewatching some of it, Mark was not handling the situation well at all, worse than he did in the comics. But for her to kind of just be like, oh, whatever, when he's like dealing with this superhero shit, I was just like, I was a little caught off guard, and I would have liked it if they, I guess, waited a little bit longer on telling her.
Mm-hmm.
But those are really the things.
Yeah, and I think the only other one kind of rolls into your next question, like, would this work better as a movie? Like, I'm not sure. Like, I think maybe a live action version would have kept me interested more. But again, like the novelty of The Boys or Logan or Deadpool for every gory live action superhero movie is like, it's tough to pull off, right? There's a reason why you don't see it very often, and it would immediately cut off a big portion of your audience, I would think.
Yes, I mean, and this is already something that kids shouldn't be watching. I mean, you brought up,
right.
when we talked about what we liked. I mean, I didn't zero in on that train scene, but that is not in the books, and that is friggin' outstanding. They did an awesome job with that. They like the fighting and everything in this series was like, in general, we talked about the action, but that was like,
yeah,
that was
Red,
awesome.
Red Rush punching some man boobs, just like super punching, just punch it right away.
So I would not. So when it comes down to would this have worked better as a movie? I don't think so. I don't think it would have, and I don't think it would have worked better live action like The Boys, because then you would have been too much like The Boys. I think as much as they're different, like there are similarities enough where people be like, oh, it's just The Boys with a couple different changes. So as much as flipped on you don't have the superhero group in the same capacity. So I don't think I would have wanted it as a movie or as live action. Let's see. Moving on to what do we think will age best from this series, Wes? Do you have any picks for that?
Yeah, so I think what's aged the best might also age the worst for me on this, and that is what we alluded to, is the horrible superhero names behind all of this, and this is kind of starting with Battlestar going back to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Falcon or Sam Wilson delivering that very impactful speech, albeit in a sick superhero costume in the vacuum. Like he has to look like an idiot, like we talked about last week, right? Like he's delivering this big, powerful monologue of a moment, and he's in a bird suit. So it seems a little ridiculous. And I think The Boys also kind of touched on that with some of the stupid names and some of like the costumes. I don't know if it felt like they looked ridiculous. And I think part of it is the veil is coming off on my face on how dumb these superhero stories can be.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think it's
the lifeblood of the show.
What's that?
It's lifeblood of our show.
I love it, but you know what I mean? Like if you take yourself out of the moment and out of like being in the superhero world, and if you think this was really going on and you just saw a guy in a purple cape with spandex and boots and goggles, like it was like, who the fuck is this guy?
That's part of why I like animated. And well, go ahead. Sorry, I'm
no. I mean that's pretty much it though. So I think the veil is kind of coming off, and just some examples, right? I mean, Rexplode, Battle Beast, Red Rush. The alliteration here is off the chart. All of these guys could go work for Channel 7, as Goose likes to mention. War Woman, Alan the Alien, Machine Head, Kill Cannon, Dropkick, Fight Master.
You love the name Duplicate, though.
No. What I do love is Duplicate is great. Damien Darkblood is an alliteration that I do sign off of. I think that's kind of fun.
That is
that's about it. The Adam Eve thing I was not a fan of.
Okay. Well, that's this. Yeah. What's funny is Lauren had the same complaint, and I forget why it bothered her. I don't think she knew what it was exactly either. But
she's kind of playing like her introduction, right? She's kind of like sultry and flirting with Rexplode and Mark, and like kind of getting in there. Her name's Adam Eve, and she's like, all I could think of is the adult website, AdamEve.com.
Well, Adam Eve also makes sense because with what her powers are. I mean, you saw what she can do. She can have a greater
witch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But
Right.
even better because they're not illusions. Like they're actual. Like she's
Mhm.
creating shit and whatever. So she like that would be. I think the name makes sense, but I can understand why it would bug people. I guess.
And to be honest, I didn't realize the pun until actually going back and like reading and preparing for this episode. I thought it was just like Adam Eve, like ADAM.
You didn't realize it was Atom.
Yeah, now maybe that's a little bit better, but no, not for me.
Well, the more you know. Anyways, what do I think will age best from this series is the idea that comic book show or comic book series can be turned into animated shows and still be mainstream. So I don't know. We're gonna get What If right from Marvel, so that's gonna. I'm very excited for that. I don't know what the
animation too, from what we've seen.
Okay, because I don't remember seeing any of it. I got to go look for some of it. But
I think so. Yeah,
this was quite different from any of the other stuff we've seen. Of course, I love Castlevania, and I've talked about that. That is 100% anime. That's more based off a video game. But we saw with what is it? Mortal Kombat was different animation from this. So was Justice League Dark, which I wish DC was sticking with that type of animation, but they're going in a different direction. Shocker! They got something that works, so they got to fuck it up, right?
Yeah, right, right.
But yeah, I just think in general that we see it now on Amazon Prime, and it was a nationwide hit. Hopefully, we start getting some more of that because I love it because you can just do certain things with animation, which we talked about already, especially with the violence that you can't necessarily, and with for that matter, with the superhero outfits and everything like that too. You can't do that.
Yes, it makes it a little bit more palatable. Yeah, yes. I agree.
It makes it in general more fun, like because just automatic, like this is not real. This is just seems like a lot. You can get a little weirder with it, and I'm all about the weirdness.
And you don't have to question what does it all mean. You can just kind of be along for the ride a little bit more. I hear you on that.
Exactly. So what would you say ages the worst though?
Yeah, I still think it's the superhero names. I think it goes in both characters there, categories. I mean,
I've had a really tough time with this one in the course of it all.
93 out of 100. I mean, not much will age the worst.
Yeah, I mean, but I usually can find something that will age poorly from this. But the hang-ups that I had with this show, honestly, Wes, were because I read the comics, and I hope people go and read it after watching the series, and I'm sure you'll still enjoy it. But I don't know.
Are we going to look back and be like, Omni-Man's canceled? Like, what was he doing at this time?
You know what's going to age poorly, and we've talked about it enough. We've made fun of DC enough. Don't get me wrong, but I think the idea that people are only going to go with a DC or Marvel, like you're only going to commit to those things. I think that Marvel will always be the juggernaut and will always be fine as long as Feige lives and breathes. But DC, the more these indie comics get their shot and get to have series or movie franchises, whatever. DC, if anybody's going to get hurt, it will be them. They could still benefit from it, sure. But if someone has something to lose, I would say it's them if they continue to go in the wrong direction because people can't go see everything. It's just a fact of things.
And with this, vacuum coming of all this superhero property IP that came up with the explosion of superhero movies and everything, how many studios are going up and buying up property rights to any sort of comic book or anything that might remotely become the next Guardians of the Galaxy or the next Invincible or whatever, that C, D, E, F list comic book lines that you can maybe salvage and punch up into a movie script. I think a lot of people are looking at that, and there's plenty out there outside of Marvel and DC, as you are well aware.
Yeah, and I mean, look at Undiscovered Country. We talk about Scott Snyder a ton on this show, and I've only talked to him a little bit about his series when we've had him on the show. But when he had that, I think it was optioned into a show, maybe it was a movie, I can't remember, but optioned to one of those things before the first issue came out. So it's like there's never been a better time to be in the comic book business because just everybody wants that stuff. Because look, you talk about it was for a long time. It was books that usually they pulled stuff from.
Yeah,
original things.
Clancy.
Exactly, and there's plenty more. Of course, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings,
Stephen King,
all of this shit. Well, now it's just comic books. You're still getting regular books, but now comic books are getting a little bit more respect, mainly because of Marvel. But anyways, we got a couple more, and let's see. We got best performance by a side character, Wes.
So I had the Mauler twins on here. That was probably my top pick for it. I enjoyed the Mauler twins. You didn't really know which one was the clone, and they're pretty strong. They played a pretty big role. I think they came back into the fold, got released from prison, right? They bring back the Immortal, who was another nomination of mine because he's Honest Abe. as
Yeah.
it turned out.
Yeah, I was wondering if people picked up on that one, and I'm sure you caught that by watching it, not by doing any research because you are so quick on your feet.
I'm astute, yeah,
of course. But it's very passing, and it's not in the comic too. It's not this crazy important thing, but the immortal is Abraham Lincoln. Like that, so everybody, you now know you have no excuse. I love that little Easter egg.
Does this mean that Abraham Lincoln succumbed, was a bad vampire hunter and became a vampire, and now he's the immortal?
Well, I gotta wonder now because Philadelphia is an Image comic series written by Rodney Barnes, who we had on TLDR as well. And in that series, oh my God, in that series, John Adams is the main big bad. He's a vampire. So you got,
is it John Adams or is it John Quincy Adams?
John Adams.
Big difference. You can't confuse the two.
Nope. John Quincy Adams is fine. John Adams is the vampire, as is Abigail Adams. But they became vampires after their kids. Well, after their kids were born. So
as long as it's not John Quincy Adams, I'm okay with that.
So I think we need to have a crossover at some point. I don't know how this hasn't been discussed over at Image Comics, but
I know, right? Yeah, this is what if they did that like a presidential monster universe? Like they just like resurrect, or like they take like Teddy Roosevelt, John Adams, your Abe Lincolns, your George Washingtons, and they're superheroes. And instead of like you talk about like increasing American pride again, just make them into superheroes in like 2021.
I guess it might work. I don't know if I'd read it.
Why not? Like, that's more realistic than Elon Musk turning into Iron Man, right? I mean,
yeah, or Elon Musk doing a good job hosting SNL. But I think when it comes to my best performance from a side character, this one is a tough one for me because as much as it's not a team show, it's an ensemble cast, and Adam Eve is not somebody who I look at necessarily as a side character, but she kind of does become more of a side character in this show. So I feel like I should go with her. But if we're just talking about people who are on the screen quickly, I mean, Mauler twins are on a fair amount too. I feel like they get a lot of play in the comics too. But I would say, like, not a prominent character. I'm probably gonna go with Alan the Alien. I like that character a lot. Okay. And then I forgot that Seth Rogen was voicing the character. So when I heard his voice, I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect for what Alan the Alien is, because you've learned more about him later. We will definitely be seeing more of him again. Fun character. So he's going to get my best performance by a side character. Wes, who would you say lost the series?
All right. What first comes to mind is Invincible and Mark. He's the title of the show, but he gets his ass beat all the time. He doesn't really live up to the name all that much. He's constantly licking his wounds. So I don't know. So maybe from that perspective, he's the loser of it. And plus, his dad just beats him up all the time. Like that's not a sign of a winner.
No, that's a good call, Wes. It's a fair point. I didn't think of that.
Guardians of the Globe, they go up pretty quickly.
I would say Immortal gets my vote for this one because he's supposed to be immortal and he gets his ass friggin' handed to him twice. I mean, the second time just chopped in half. Ooh.
Yeah. But if the original Guardians of the Globe were supposed to be the play on the Justice League, right? It's almost like a meta commentary for how quickly and inept Justice League was that they got wiped off the floor so quickly.
Yes, that's a good point too.
A little bit. And also Rexplode, not a big fan of the character itself. He's dating a high schooler, right? Adam Eve. In high school?
He sucks. He's the worst.
He's not in high school, I believe. He's very overbearing, very overprotective. And he also gets beat up during the superhero trials. He gets beat up a couple times, too.
He's a cheater, too. But yeah, it was Monster Girl kicks his ass.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so I Monster Girl is a good character, too, who definitely deserves to be in consideration for best performance by a side character. But I think I'm going to stick with the Immortal for my pick here, but I think Rexplode is a great one. But at the same time, Mantzoukas maybe give a shit about the character more because he's not in it. Like, Rexplode's around and he's a douche in the comics still, but he's not like he was more prominent throughout the course of the show than he was in the series. And before I get into anything else that was changed in the series, I think there are a couple of things I want to highlight. Of course, we have to deem the winner of this series, Wes. we want to go with.
It's got to be Omni-Man. He's the only one that I really cared about. He's the only storyline that I cared about. He brought the most violence, which I think many people would agree is what the one of the tent poles of this show, one of the pillars of this show is.
Yeah.
Even with J.K. Simmons doing his J. Jonah Jameson impression and stuff, that was a little much. The story's all about him. It's him.
Mm-hmm. I think that you made a really good case for Mark being the loser of the series, but I couldn't end up going with him in it. But part of me thinks, because I agree with you on the winner of the series, that Mark should end up being the loser. But I'm going to give a similar take to what I gave in our Falcon and the Winter Soldier exit review, which is our last episode for those who haven't listened to it yet. Mm-hmm. I think that Omni-Man is the winner. His stock is the highest of anybody here. But I think that Debbie Grayson's character stock skyrocketed because she's somebody who goes through a lot after all of these events, and we'll definitely see that. But she was a character who, like I said before, was just not all that prominent. And Zazie Beetz is right there too with her Amber. It's a very similar situation. So I mean, again, when I was watching with Lauren, she's like saying like she doesn't want Debbie Grayson to die throughout the entire series. She was paranoid about her dying because she was a much better character than she was in the comics. So
believe me, I know.
She had the most growth, but Omni-Man is definitely the winner, number one, with a bullet of the series. Oh, right.
I was wondering if you're gonna pick up how many times I could just say to response to you.
Took me a little bit. Took me a little while there. You weren't saying it with an exclamation point, so that's why I
it's fair. That's fair.
But you're moving goalposts on me and everything like that, so I just don't appreciate that. But let's see. All right, so for the changes that I wanted to highlight, I've talked about a few of them already, but just a couple other things. The whole robot shit. What happens with him? That is, I haven't even read that yet. That is the one thing in the whole series where I was like, what the fuck is this? I mean, like I've seen Robot's body. I don't know what's his yet in the comics. I've seen him interact with the Mauler twins and all that stuff. And it feels like nefarious, like it did in the show at first. But I hadn't dealt with any of that. I mentioned before the stuff that happens with Titan in Battle Beast. That does not happen until I believe it's after Mark's dad is gone. Certainly after it was after Mark's dad is gone, so later on in the series. William was not gay in the series. He dated Adam Eve, actually, for a good while.
She really got around, huh?
Sure. Yeah, she did.
Sure.
I mentioned the stuff with with Debbie and with Amber ad nauseum. Of course, I mentioned the college stuff as well. What was it? And Adam Eve, she did not go to Africa as quickly as she did. She did like her own kind of solo superhero thing. Working alongside Mark for a little bit in the course of things. Let's see. A pretty big one was what was it? Damien Darkblood. Well, yeah, I'm going to get Cecil in a second, but Damien Darkblood. Where Mark was the one who figured it out last year, Damien Darkblood figured out what happened with Omni-Man after everybody in the comic book series. He was the last one instead of being like the first one this time around.
Real gumshoe. I like this guy.
Exactly. It was really funny. So like after the whole fight, everything's on TV and all that crap. He comes up to Cecil and he's like, I think I know who did it. And he's like, we know already. Everybody knows already. Oh, okay. And then
my guy. I hire him.
So he was something else. But Cecil and Omni-Man, they were thick as thieves in the comic book series. Like you see with Mark in the comics where Cecil is like his guy in the chair effectively. He was that for Omni-Man before he was for Mark. So we don't get that at all here. They're like they work kind of, they deal with each other, but not really. So very weird how that was a surprising change, but I get why they did it to build the mystery and all that stuff. But those were probably the biggest changes throughout the course of it all. There were subtle things here and there, but that was kind of the stuff that I think is worth highlighting. Aside from stuff from before.
I like that. I appreciate that. I think that adds a little extra layer to the show for those of us who watched and read. I say us as if I'm including myself in that group, but
right.
I most certainly did not. Nick, is there anything else you would like to add before we move on to discharge our loads in the discharge depot?
No, I think I'm ready to go. Other than saying that I thought this was a success. Very excited for what's coming up next, and can't wait till I guess next year when we get season 2 of this, and what else? The ripple effect of Invincible's success.
Right? Yeah, exactly. What else swims in its wake? We will have to find out. Tune in. But moving over to the discharge depot, where anything could happen. No, it's wild. I watched Without Remorse on Amazon Prime on Friday evening.
Michael B. Jordan?
The Michael B. Jordan, Tom Clancy.
Ooh, how was it?
It's a good action flick. It's fun. I thought it definitely kept my attention and stuff, and I like those mindless action films anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think Michael B. Jordan has written into his contract that he has to have at least one scene of him going through the hallways of a hospital on a stretcher. Because that was in Creed, maybe Creed 2, maybe both of them, and then in this one again, and it's just like, him looking over the top of him just like lying down in the stretcher, and he's like face all swollen, he's half dead. It's interesting.
I can't remember which one that happens in with the Creed movie.
One of the Creed movies.
But so do you have a? I mean, we're not doing an episode on it, right? Or do you want to?
I don't think we have to do an episode on it, but I would say it's it's a 80, low to mid 80s. That's a good movie there. I'm not sure his Q rating is through the roof. Like, this guy has to have a scandal drop at some point in time. He's flying way too close to the sun.
I hope not. Don't do that. Don't wish.
No, I'm not saying like it has to. I'm just saying like this guy, like his approval ratings through the roof. Who doesn't love Michael B. Jordan?
Yo, you're right. I don't know why anybody would love that guy. I mean, he can play any character. I mean, people talk about making him Superman. We in DSG talk about making him Red Hood. Everybody loves Killmonger. Yeah, sure. Why not? Just here's how you fix a DCEU. Just make Michael B. Jordan every male character.
I got it. So it's like the Clumps, right, with Eddie Murphy, but it's the Bat Family, and it's just Michael B. Jordan playing all the members of the Bat Family
and Superman for good measure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
why not?
I'll sign off on that. Boom, there you go, DC. You're welcome.
I love it. That's a movie right there. Two thumbs up. Also, did two very adulting things. Did a whole lot of yard work. Cleaned up the yard. Memorial Day weekend's right around the corner. Bought a lawnmower.
Ooh. Oh,
yeah, right. Nice self-propelling one. Push lawnmower. Small yard. Don't need a whole lot.
Nice.
And put an offer in on a house today. I went to an open house over the weekend. Very weird. It's not like how the TV shows make it out to be. Where like, it's you, your significant other, and your realtor, and you go around from house to house, and you have this limit, and it's like very intimate and romantic, and like you guys go around and talk about what you like and what you didn't like, and then you go make a selection, then you start your beautiful family, right, with your 2.5 kids and your white picket house and picket fence and all that stuff. No, there was like 140 people at this, and you're waiting in line. There's a police detail, like you're inevitably sizing people up. There's you're like, how am I going to, are these people going to want the house? And if it's between them or us, who needs it more? You see some people with like infants in both hands, or there's people showing up on crutches. Like, I wanted to just like rent a baby just to kind of have like a more compelling story.
That would have been a good idea. That would have been the move.
I think in hindsight, we might do that.
Shoot, you should have talked to Joe about renting Schwaggins, and then maybe get Goo to loan you rafting.
Yeah. We'll go get an ice cream at the Cream and Cone after, or something like
absolutely.
that.
God, that was a missed opportunity. I wish you told me beforehand.
I know we should have done that. Yeah, maybe good chance we're not going to get this one. Worst case scenario, we actually do get it, and then I have to follow through on this. But yeah, that was the weekend there. So maybe for the next one we'll get Doc if we miss out on this.
That was I think it's the ultimate move at this point. I think you clearly had a much more adult weekend for me because
I don't suggest it.
I went on a walk in Westport in an area that I'd never been before. It was really nice. Lovely. But also stayed in and watched a couple shows too. So I got a nice mix of both. Watched Things Heard and Seen, which is an Amanda Seyfried.
I saw this. Is it good?
So the 2/3 of it's good. The ending was extremely disappointing, and I've been on record.
A horror movie?
It's a thriller.
Suspense. Okay.
Suspense thriller. But definitely has like some jump scare moments. But as you go along, it's like I don't want to spoil things, but I liked it up until we got near the end, and then a certain thing happens, and it's like, and then they wrap it up, and it's like, I watched, like, Lauren liked it, but she had an issue with the ending too. So I mean, at best, I'm giving this a 770, like flat out. So the ending was so weird to me, and I think you'd feel the same way. Just bizarre.
When you were watching the movie, did you notice that Amanda Seyfried's eyes would follow you no matter where you were in the room? Like one of those like moving cats.
That's scary.
She's very, very like enveloping eyes. They just like draw you in. They're huge.
Yes, they are large. But her acting was great in this, and in general, I thought like the writing for the most part was good. It's just the end was just That it was a good movie. Up until the third act, I probably would have given it like, in the B range. I enjoyed it, but then just it was just they didn't land the plane. It's like that's why when you guys say like, oh, they don't do it with Marvel and stuff like that. Like, watch this and tell me they didn't fucking like that Marvel didn't land the plane.
I don't care about some Netflix movie with Amanda Seyfried. Like the MCU, I have more of an invested interest in.
That's a very fair point. Something you may end up having invested interest in at some point. I hope. I don't know if you will. It's maybe a little too high fantasy.
I know who's involved with this right now. I'm seeing your notes.
So Shadow and Bone on Netflix. I think it was this weekend that it dropped, and I watched the first couple episodes. Now it's a lot of actors who, at least I'm not familiar with. I assume most people won't be the. I don't know any of the cast members' names. I will say though that the female lead, she gives me Olivia Munn vibes. I thought it was honestly her sister. But one of the characters in this is my guy, Ben Barnes from The Punisher, Billy Russo, who everybody loved from that series.
Was that our second episode ever?
You know what? It might have been.
It's definitely like the first 5.
I love Billy Russo. I love his acting in that. And he's a little different here, but you definitely get some Billy Russo before he turns into Jigsaw vibes from this character, but it's a much different world. It's high fantasy, magicians.
He's handsome.
Definitely. I really enjoyed the start of this. I'm probably going to watch another episode with Lauren after we get off the show because we've been itching to binge this. But I think it's 8 episodes through the first 2. Very good. So
I like it. Okay, maybe I'll give that on the queue.
It's on. It's live action, so you might actually be able to hold your attention. But going back to animated for This Week in
Shared Universe.
I know that #Dork and Mac and Goo are talking about Invincible this week. So if you guys want more Invincible content, go give them a listen. The People for Communism podcast, I believe they're doing something on Red Rush because he's where he's from and everything like that.
Right. Red Russians. Fire Rangers always red, and they're always rushing. So
but they were, I think they were between that and why Omni-Man is actually the hero of Invincible. Something one of those two. I'm not certain though.
Now, have you spoke to Billy and or Jason D. Rossi about them incorporating some of the ideas that you have for the PCP podcast, much like we worked with Goo to have his ideas incorporated into our podcast?
I may be something that we should mention to them. That would be a good idea. I told Goo to keep going.
We are content creators.
Yeah, exactly. And although one certain Nimrod thought we did that because we were out of ideas where we're flooded with them. We just had to get to that at some point.
Flooded up to my gills.
I mean, there's stuff that I think you have like ideas at least, like barring change, the things popping up or whatever, we make adjustments. You have us booked with ideas beyond December, right? Into January.
I'm like the doomsday prepper of show scheduling.
Yeah,
I got a whole bunch of rainy ideas, just ready to go. Rainy day ideas.
For TLDR this week, I told you guys what Doc's talking about. Crossover, very excited to hear about that. I think I'm going to be talking about a Punisher book this week, so I'm very excited about that. Punisher Soviet is the leader in the clubhouse right now for what I'm going to be discussing, but we shall see if I call it audible. But we did the May Solicit last week where we're talking about everything that's coming out this month. And we got timestamps for you guys. So week by week, if you guys are looking to pick up stuff, first issues, all that. I know Pineapple Boys, I believe it's the 7th episode of season 2 of Psych they're talking about.
You know what I've realized about them too is that they do their episodes in chronologically. So when the season 1 ends, they don't do season 1 episode or season 2 episode 1. They just do like the 13th episode if it was a 12 episode season, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, which I think makes it difficult. Like that, I don't know. Like, if you're doing a chronological show episode by episode, wouldn't it make sense to do podcast to call the seasons?
Just call the episode title that. It might be a good idea. Maybe we should tell them that because I'm hoping they go to audio version because I watch them on Twitch, but I can't watch the whole time because they broadcast during work. So it just I need it in audio version. So
right, and 2 guys with a classic face for radio, not even making their audio available.
Well, I mean, I take enough shots at Billy D, and I'm not going to go after Doc. So
I know, I'm going to hear about that in chat a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Be sure to follow all the streamers, Doc, Shime, and Davey. But real quick, what's going on with Shield Play, the MCU at Home show?
So Shield Play, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier podcast wrapped up the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, the second Disney Plus series that we've done. So we're going on a little bit of break here until Loki comes back around June-ish, I think. I want to say June-ish it comes out. But until then, I think we definitely want you guys to stay following MCU at home, at MCU at home. And until we figure out a new title for this Loki podcast, because it could be Time Cops, it could be Get Help, it could be Loki Doki Oki, or whatever that Oshkosh Bagosh. I don't know, something along those lines. So
just make it Okie Dokie, and then when you're done with the Loki podcast, turn it into a Hideki Okijima podcast.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it works, right?
So
there you go. I mean, it's right up there. And you guys can just talk about baseball players that he struck out throughout his career. Make it like a 10-minute episode each time.
I like that. Okay, yeah, that's
simple. Boom. But I am excited to see what you guys figure out beyond Loki, because of we're still getting. We're gonna have What If, but I don't know what else we're gonna be getting for shows. So,
that's a big question. That's another great question. So we'll see. And as for next week, Nick, I'm wondering if we should invite those guys, Mac and Goo, on to see if I know their schedule is very busy. But to do a Build the Cinema, since Build the Cinema, Mac and Goovy Vault, kind of in the same vein. There's a Venn diagram of crossover there.
Fucking, you want me to do a show with? There's a reason Toy Boys doesn't exist anymore.
I think you might do another Toy Boys with all that Toy Boy action in the group chat.
Yeah, don't get the people's hopes.
Come back to like 60 messages of just grown men talking about toys.
I have like 4 surrounding me right now, so I think it's today. So yeah, I think we can tentatively plan for that.
At least don't take them out of the box. Like do yourself a favor.
I like to have them. I like to
play with them.
I got my Mando and Cad Bane next to each other over there. Star Wars. And John Wick's over around the corner. So, but anyways, so same time next week.
Yeah, so same bad time, same bad place, but maybe something a little different.